know, a lot of you come from different walks of life. Some people are looking for a job, some people are working with people that are looking for a job, and you're just interested in finding out more about CAF USA. Today we have
Josh Michael,
and you are
HR Manager
at CAF USA, and we have,
I'm Megan Kane, HR Generalist at CAF USA.
and we're gonna let you take it from here.
Okay, so of course we are from CAF USA. We started talking a little bit earlier about what CAF USA and where it is, and you know, one of the things we find when we go to a lot of these events is, again, everybody sees that sign out on the Miracle Mile that says CAF, but nobody really knows what it means. Okay, so what's actually going on behind the tracks when you see that sign? And it's actually a pretty neat deal that's going back there. CAF is an international railroad car manufacturing company. So our headquarters is in Spain. We have contracts throughout the world. Matter of fact, over the course of the last probably about 6 months, we've also diversified into a couple different areas, not just rail. We've also diversified into, it's a company called Solaris, and they build alternative fuel buses over in, I think it's Poland. Okay, so that's one of the new products that we're bringing in, and if you look at some of the technology that's shared between trains and the buses, especially on the regenerative part and the electronic braking systems, there's a lot of that technology that we can merge and share, which of course decreases engineering costs and a lot of other stuff as we start going through that process. But the company in and of itself has, I think we're around 10,000 people strong right now. But right across the railroad tracks here in Elmira, we actually have 556 people at last count. At the Elmira plant itself, we have 512 people. Surprisingly or not, there's almost 40 acres back there. So there's 40 acres of railroad track back there, and we have roughly 400,000 square foot of covered space. So when you get into these buildings, 500 people you would think would be an awful lot of people walk around with 400,000 square foot of covered space. It absorbs people very, very quickly into these projects. So it's kind of neat to be able to see that functionality and how it all kind of comes together when you have that call up in the middle of the morning and just kind of run through the day. It's a neat process to be able to see. Here locally, we have 3 projects that are moving. Okay, so we have the Amtrak projects. Everybody sees kind of the big silver bullets that are going down the line. We've been working on that project for a few years. That one's coming through. We're well over the halfway point on that one, but we are working through that project. We have the Boston project, so the Green Line in Boston. If you've ever been to Boston, those are pretty neat to see, and that's a pretty fancy car when you actually see the Green Line going down there. We're very proud of that one. And we just started up a Maryland line, so this is a great big purple line, and this is a car that's a little bit different here in the U.S. We haven't done one of these. The purple line is going to be, it's in prototype phase right now, so we're building the first one. And the first one is kind of where you go through and you start doing the math. Okay, this took us this long to do, this took us this long to do. That's where you kind of develop your learning curves. Okay, so we're learning a new train. It's going to take us this long. We think over 6 months we're going to refine it down to this and start going into serial production. But this one's really neat. It's one of the longest trains that you're going to see here in the U.S. The train itself has 5 different parts to it. Where normally you see maybe a train with 3. It's got the little hinge in the middle so they can articulate around corners. This one's going to be 5. So I think the specs on it, it'll fit 110 people in it when it's all said and done. So this one's really neat to watch, and it's a great new engineering product that we actually put together for the first time here in the U.S. So with that said, that kind of gives you an idea just what CAF is, kind of what we're doing right now. But now if you look at follow on to kind of what we're looking for people, because honestly at the end of the day that's the biggest thing that we need as a company, because there is no one train that's identical. So it's not something a robot can go in there and do. Each train is unique, each train is a little bit different. There's always a little bit of difference in tolerances. So you may have the same pieces, but you can have somebody in there that can logically look at it and ascertain, is this going to fit, is it not going to fit, how do we do this, maybe I got to make an adjustment here. So there's a lot of on-the-spot engineering, so to speak, that everybody has to be capable of. That's kind of the skill sets that we're looking for. So Megan today, she's brought a bunch of paperwork here on positions that we're looking for, but kind of a higher level oversight of what we're looking at is mechanical assemblers. Okay, mechanical assemblers is pretty much exactly what it says, and kind of what we talked about. Basic coordination, you know, do you know how to use tools? Okay, and when I'm talking tools, some of the basic stuff that you're looking at is, do you know how to drill a hole? And you know what, I thought that was easy. I really did. I thought that was an easy thing to do, is be able to go in there and drill a hole. It's not. No. There's a whole bunch of different stuff at it. You know, the type of drill that you use, the speed that you're going through, because you may be drilling through carbon, you may be drilling through aluminum. Each one's got a different spec on it, what you have to do and how to get through it the best. So once you drill that hole, you have to be able to drill that hole. First you have to be able to find where to put the hole. Let me back up just a minute. So you gotta be able to read a blueprint that's gonna say, okay, put hole right here. Okay, so you drill that hole, then you gotta be able to tap that hole. Then you're gonna put whatever bolts into that hole on it. You gotta torque it, and then you gotta go back there, check it again, and torque stripe it. And that's gonna tell us, that part is done, that part's safe, and that's where that one belongs. So what sounds like an easy process, and trust me, what I do at home would nowhere be adequate to what we do at work, is a very long process to get to. So that's kind of what we're looking for on the general mechanic side. So general hands, can you use a drill? Can you use a hammer? Do you know how to use screwdrivers? That's kind of the basic stuff that we're looking for. Have you ever been an assembly before? Or a machinist? Machinist is a little bit different, but still it gives you some of the basic qualifications that you're looking for when we come into CAF. As a follow-on to that, we also have electrical assemblers. Now, electrical assemblers, specifically it does get into the electrical side of the house, but there's two different functions on electrical. We have what we call electrical workshop, and then we have electrical assembly. So, well, close, they work with the same product. You have a before stage, which is the electrical workhouse, which builds the components. Okay, so believe it or not, inside each one of these trains, we'll just take an average 37 miles of wire, okay, inside these trains. So they come up with this neat little box. Okay, it's maybe about as tall as this table and just a little bit wider. And you have a technician that's going to sit there, and their job is to take 37 miles of wire and put it in this table. Okay, so it's a pretty elaborate process, and it's a really neat product when it's done. We have what we call Lomax and Comax machines. You just see these big spool of wires going through these machines, and when they come out, it's almost a twisted pair, and you start feeding into these boxes. Now, electrical assemblers don't run live wires, okay? But the concept you need to be able to be an electrical assembler is you need to understand how current works, because while you're not actually playing with live wires, somewhere along the way that's gonna get connected to something else. And a quick analogy is if you hook it up wrong, your left turn signal now becomes your right turn signal. It doesn't work right, so we gotta make sure that stuff gets into the boxes right, it gets labeled right, and all that stuff is put together. So that's kind of the functionality of the electrical workshop. Now they take these great big old boxes and they take these out to the line, and there's a train sitting out there, and they put these in the train. And then you have electrical assemblers, which now are building looms. And these looms are the additional wires that run all the way around the car to get these signal lights to work, to get the computers to work that are actually driving the cars. So there's the functionality of hooking these boxes in and then actually plumbing them into the cars. So that's a little bit different skill set. I think that's probably, probably a harder skill set to find. Because now you're also looking on top of what your mechanical assemblers do along with the torquing, tightening and all that. You also have the functionality of understanding, not necessarily working with current. How does this work going? What's the theory to get A to B? What's the theory over here? So that's an exciting thing to watch. Those go together. And then we have the test techs, which is the next step up from that one. And that does require a little bit of additional training. I guess, yeah.
High voltage.
High voltage. So now these cars are all run, they got these things called catenaries, right? So when you think of like Boston, you think of Seattle, San Francisco, they got these pantographs that connect up into the electrical wires, right? Right, so when those connect in, that's pretty high voltage now. And now you're starting to talk a little bit different theory on this, because that can hurt. This is the kind that burns you a little bit. This is the kind that blows you back and you might not get back up again. So we want to make sure that the skill set defined with working with high voltage is a little bit different. Some of the stuff that we're looking for, the military guys that have ever been like radar guys know high voltage.
25,000 volts.
Okay, see? But radar's got a good skill set for that. Corning Community College also has a program that we definitely like that teaches basic fundamentals of that as well. So, we tend to stand outside the college and try to pick these folks up as they're coming in the door. Or just if you've ever had the experience with it, you worked with it before, that's also one of the key things that we're looking for. But this is where stuff starts coming alive. So you're doing all this functionality and you're getting it all up and running, and all of a sudden, these test techs plug it in and this car comes alive. And the computers power up and everything goes through. And what they're doing is they're testing functionality. So they can do simulations all the way throughout the process. What did we do the other day? We had to close a door 4,000 times until it broke. Oh my gosh, that took like 7 hours. But that's just, the functionality that these guys are doing. They can simulate a crash. Okay, so if this thing crashes, what's gonna go off? This alarm's gonna go off, these lights are gonna go off, this is gonna go, the doors are gonna pop open, and, so everybody can get out of it. But that's the testing phase. And that's kind of the neat phase, because usually once it gets done with that, the car's just about done, and it's getting ready to ship off to the customer. Now, once it goes off to the customer, there's a whole different phase of that as well. For the Elmira plant, we're not hiring for that right now, but think of it when you buy a brand new car, right? So you go get a brand new car and you get a warranty on your car, right? And it breaks down. So with that, you take it back to the dealer goes back and they fix it, right? Trains are really big. They don't usually bring them back to us once we get them out there. So what we do is on site, we have a repair team that does what we call commissioning, and we also have warranty. So commissioning is, it's on site, and the customer says, all right, CAF, you need to have this car run this track 500 times and it can't break down. Okay, we're gonna run it 500 times, it's not gonna be able to break down. And that's called the commissioning phase. Once it passes that, it goes into that warranty phase like the car. So now we're taking care of a warranty, and it may be 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, it may be 30 years, it just depends on the contract. And we'll do the maintenance on those cars for the next 5 years, whatever it may be at that point. Those folks out on site are kind of a jack of all trades. They gotta be electrical, they gotta be test tech, they gotta be mechanical, because they're fixing the cars all, as they break down or as parts need to be replaced. So those are some of the key positions that we're looking for. Some of the lesser ones, at least as of right now, is
QA inspector.
quality inspectors. So if you're looking at the quality side of the house, everywhere along this path, these cars have to be checked. There's certain milestones and there's certain stop points that have to be checked before it can proceed to the next station. So we are looking for quality inspectors too that have, that intrinsic knowledge of being able to measure, being able to calculate, being able to view something and make sure it matches spec. So those are pretty heavy qualified individuals. And typically for those positions, we're gonna look for people that have a little bit of past experience in being an inspector. So, especially on a product like this, this, if it doesn't work right, it could be life or death. You just want to make sure everything's working right. Analysts, and we also have warehouse. So we have a huge warehouse. We have probably one of the only fully heated warehouses around. So if you really like warehousing, ours is really warm in the wintertime. It stays about 55, 65 degrees in there all winter, and probably maybe 85 degrees in the summer, but yeah. Not air conditioned, but it is definitely heated throughout the winter. And based on New York, and we're gonna do winter till June, that's probably a pretty good thing. So, so we do have the warehouse, and the standard logistics on this one. You have your receiving inspection, you have your receiving comes in here, it goes on the stands, first in, last out, last in, first out, whatever the functionality may be at that particular time. You get it out to the line, the goal is to get it out there right before the guy picks it back up and they start putting it on the car. So we also have some of those positions available.
Engineer, engineer.
Now swapping over just a little bit, so those what we're talking about are kind of your hourly positions. I think we do have a pretty competitive hourly rate on that, and we may talk about that as we go through the process a little bit. Shifting over a little bit, we also do have a lot of the professional jobs as well. So some of them that we're looking for right now, kind of a neat one right now, it's just kind of came on the books, it's called an analyst. It's a production analyst, right?
Manufacturing.
Manufacturing analyst, okay. So this is kind of your this is a jack of all trades, there's no way to put this. They got to be able to go out on the floor and look at a multitude of different things, okay? They may be warehousing one day, they may be doing production one day, they may be doing, time studies another day, just to kind of see, what the functionality is, production, and how do you're always trying to make it better. Every time you do something, the next time you do it, you want to make it just that much better. And that's kind of the function of this person. So a piece of material comes out to the floor, they're going to take a look at it, how long has it been on the floor, is it the right material, was it damaged material, does it need to go back to the warehouse? Okay, we're going to do that one. All right, so now the material's in, okay, we're looking at it. Man, it says you're supposed to do this in 8 hours, it took 8.5 hours. Why did it take 8.5 hours? Well, maybe we had 3 new guys on the job and they were learning the job, so there was some training involved. Okay, that's understandable. But they're going to start doing those calculations and start working through that. So that's neat. That's a new position that we have out there.
That one's actually a dual role. They'll have an admin portion to that where they'll be doing administrative functions for the director of the production staff.
Mhm.
So coordinating hotels for employees, travel, maybe doing time cards as well.
Yep. Yep.
Production supervisor.
We do need a production supervisor, so production supervisors and engineers, so naturally, so we got 514 people out there on the floor right now. We need to make sure that there's somebody out there to kind of instruct and guide people throughout the course of the day. So we do need a manufacturing supervisor. This person, I believe, is going to be the supervisor on for mechanical assemblers.
Mhm.
Okay. So day-to-day functioning, and the neat thing is, if you're looking at our shifts, it's actually a pretty accommodating shift. We have a 6 to 2:30 and a 2:30 to 10:30. We don't run a third shift, and second shift isn't too bad. By 10:30, you're pretty much done and gone for the day. 90% of our people are on first shift. Give or take, we have about 40 people totality on second shift. So really, when you're looking at second shift, you're looking at specialty processes that can't be done with a lot of people around there. So maybe it'd be hooking up current, it might be painting for the evening, whatever it may be, just something where you can't have a lot of people around. So fairly small in that one.
Planner, safety manager.
So you got a supervisor that's gonna be handling that, but now we also have engineering positions, and I think we have 3 engineers open right now. We have a test engineer, we have a manufacturing engineer. That's okay, right? Wow,
Yes.
okay.
Close.
Those are degree positions, so they do need to be qualified engineers. 4-year degree from whatever college it may be at that point, but I think specifically on these, we'd be looking for electrical engineers and or mechanical engineers. Those are probably gonna be your biggest ones in that one.
Yeah.
And then,
Safety manager.
safety manager and planner. Now, planner is kind of a unique position too. So a planner is a skilled position, but a planner is somebody that is kind of the go-between, all right? So you have warehouse, which gets the stuff out to the line, and you have production that says, I need stuff out to the line. Okay, that's kind of how that works. You got the planner that kind of sits in the middle, that's running middle ground between production and warehouse to make sure all this stuff gets out there on time. So production will, we're gonna say in 2 days, we need to have this part out there. They're gonna tell the planner's gonna put it in the system, they're gonna ping the warehouse is gonna make sure it gets out there. Planner's gonna go out there and check to make sure it got out there. And that's a very busy job. They stay well employed all day long. And then we are looking for a safety manager too. So with any plant this size, safety is paramount. I mean, that's just par for the course. You need to make sure that we want everybody to come in the same way they, everybody to go home the same way they came in. That's the goal of the day. Come in, do a good day's work, go home, retire, sleep, you get back up, and we do it all over again. But the safety manager is really going to be the person that runs the strategic vision of where they want to take safety throughout the plan. So this is a pretty high level position. It's I would say a senior manager position, but there's also going to be some credentials that come along with it. You need to be safety certified. There's CCM certifications, REM certifications along with those as well, to make sure that we're on it. Safety is also a bigger scope than I think even I thought. Safety, I want to make sure that you don't fall down, there's tripping hazards, but safety really parlays into environmental as well. So looking at companies that occupy 40 acres, there's a lot of stuff that you have to look at when you're looking at safety. We're gonna dig a hole. Our plant's 100 years old. There's always something in that hole. We gotta make sure that we remedy first. Painting's always one of the things that a safety manager. So you're looking at environmental concerns to deal with OSHA, the DEC, the EPA, just to make sure that what we're doing in a proper manner, and make sure that we're compliant with this one. So
Those are all our open positions.
those are the big ones. Now, we're talking at a point in time today, okay? So what we're talking about today is, this is what we have open. That's not what's gonna be open. I mean, we're continuously moving, we're continuously shifting. As projects come on, as you win bids, the whole dynamics changes again. You land another project, oh my goodness, I need 120 more people. Here we go. So and you're close by. You see the parking lot kind of fluctuate.
Yeah.
It gets bigger when projects come on board. So with that, I guess, maybe we go into a video real quick.
Sure. Can you tell us about the soft skills that you value the most in your employees?
Absolutely. This is a good one. So we talked about some of the hard skills that you got to be able to know, how to run a tool, how to, be an engineer, whatever you have to do at that point. But some of the soft skills that you're looking for, and I think some of the big ones, and you probably heard this before, making sure that you come to work on time. That's probably the biggest one. You know, we'll pay you a good day's wage for doing a good day's work. So when you come into work, you know, when you come in, you clock in, you're ready to go to work, you do your day's work, you head home for the day, that's perfect. I mean, in generality, that's some of the bigger skills that we're looking for. And surprising or not, that's one of the tougher skills to find. As odd as that sounds. Just getting to work on time and be able to work a full day is one of the biggest things that we're looking at right now. So, and maybe I can take this into the training part before we jump into the video.
Mm-hmm.
We do have something that's a little bit unique with CAF USA. And I just realized I better turn my ringer off on my phone. What we did with CAF USA is we actually partnered with Corning Community College. Okay. What we were finding is that maybe not everybody knows how to run a drill. Okay, I get it. You know, if I ask my kid how to run a drill, they probably know because I made them do it. But not every kid has that opportunity to learn how to run a drill. So we partnered with Corning Community College, and this is kind of a first of its kind within the area. We actually have a CCC teacher that sits 40 hours a week on site. Okay, so they're actually teaching all of the classes that we do. So if you come in, say, as a mechanical assembler, electrical assembler, your first week is classroom. Okay, we're going to run through basic blueprints because blueprints sound really easy. They're not. They're definitely not. Especially when it comes to building a train. So you may be able to look at a house blueprint and that makes sense. But when you start looking at a train and specifically CAF blueprints, nobody knows those. So we'll teach you how to look at a blueprint. We're also going to take you in the back, and we have an actual physical training room that you get to sit in, and we'll teach you how to drill a hole. Okay, here's your blueprint. Okay, you're going to drill a hole. You got to put it in there. You're going to tap it. You're going to torque it, and then you're going to torque stripe it to make sure that that product is safe for the next person. And we do that through different phases. Matter of fact, with the CCC teacher, he's actually got kind of a neat process going on right now where he has a balloon. Okay, so it sounds a little bit awkward, but you get a balloon and you get these stickers and you have to look at a blueprint and put the stickers on the balloon. If you don't do it right, the balloon pops. So you know really quick if you got it into the right spot, because the minute you try to peel that sticker off, the balloon's done. So it's kind of a neat process that we're going through. Now the goal with this is to actually give a tangible to everybody that comes into the plant. Not just people that are coming in for training, but for the entire plant overall. It's in about the 60-day point, so it's in its early infancy, but the goal is to take that training course and make it a CCC certified class. Okay, so now when you go through this, now you're a certified, you have passed the certification for manufacturing. That means you have the basic skill set, and it's something you own. It's not, here's your CAF certificate. Oh, that's great, I'm gonna take my CAF certificate, I'm gonna go over to Hillary, they don't care. But if you have a CCC certificate and you decide maybe that the two companies, you know, CAF and yourself don't match, you actually have a tangible that you can take somewhere else. It's a little risky for us, we understand that part, but our goal is to be able to keep people in the area. And we were talking a little bit earlier, you know, if you really think about how many manufacturings companies are in the area, I think overall if you can give everybody a skill that they can take to different places or that they can use, as long as they stay in the area, that's our preference. But if we can give you a little bit of something that works for it, it works for us really well too, because we like it. When we go out to bid a new contract, we can say all of our people are trained by Corning Community College. So for us, it's a win. So hopefully for the employees, it is too. So that's just a little bit on the training aspect. So we're working through training. It's going to be a year-long process. There's going to be a lot of ups and downs, and we're going to make it work. But you know, we got the initial start of it, and I think it's a pretty good project that we're going to take on right now.
So what's the application process for CAF?
Sure. So there's a couple different ways you can apply through CAF. Everybody's got their own method they like to do. Okay. Some people like to apply online. Some people like to come in the door. Some people want to talk to folks. So you guys get the opportunity today because we're here, so we're going to make it easy for you. But if you know where we're at, the guard check, they accept applications all day long. All you have to do is drop off a resume or just say I would like to apply, and they'll give you an application right there on the spot. You can fill out and give it right back to the guard. We go out there all day long and we pick up the applications coming. The other part is we do post online significantly. Now, right now we're partnered with a staffing agency called System 1. Okay, so there's a couple different ways you can look at it. System 1 posts through Monster, LinkedIn, and we also have our own LinkedIn webpage you can apply through. But Monster is what they call a spider page, or basically all other websites, Indeed, Career Builder, and all these other websites feed into Monster, and they're going to pull those ads. So if you go online and take a look, you can look for System 1, you can look for CAF USA, you can look for assembler, you can look for electrical. Any of these little pings on Google or Indeed, they're gonna give you the hits where you can actually apply online. The other part is you're gonna see us at every recruiting event probably within the area. So me and Megan have been on the road quite a bit this year, making sure, and this is the first time we've ever done this as CAF, is go out as CAF and say, hi, we're here, you know, we wanna make sure they know who's on the other side of the railroad tracks. So we've been at all the career fairs as well, and now we're starting to try to work our ways into the high schools. Okay, because again, the bigger feel is, how do we keep people in the area? I promise you, when I went to high school, I had no idea what would have been in the area I lived in. So if we can actually get out to the high schools and start talking to some of these folks and let them know there's a lot to do here, that's one of the bigger things that we're looking at as well.